Welcome back, guys, to another video. I was doing some digging online, and you hear certain things, and sometimes people tend to be a little bit uninterested, or have a high degree of, or they possess, or they hold a high degree of indifference towards certain matters that concerns the current climate of America. And I'm not big into politics at all, but I understand when things are happening right in front of me, right beneath my nose. I am, just like anybody else, I tend to look into things a little bit. And not everything is a conspiracy. Certain things are just what they are, and it's left up to you as a critical thinker to either accept the truths that are given to you or accept the possibilities of those things being true, or you can just throw it underneath the classification of conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory, and just that'll be a easier way to kind of get away from your personal responsibility as an autonomous being to actually dig deep into certain issues that you might not feel comfortable looking into. But there's a report that I read online about how the United Nations, and believe it or not, guys, America is done. America is done. There's no more America. We're done. We're not a United States. We are ran globally, okay? You might as well call us the United Nations. United Nations are the ones that run us, okay? They govern everything. So right now, we are being governed by the United Nations. And they're the ones responsible here for passing out debit cards and passing out benefits to these illegal immigrants that are crossing the southern border. And this is not, if you don't believe me, you don't have to believe everything that I'm telling you. You don't have to. You can just look it up yourself if you care enough. And if you don't give a damn, just continue to go to Walmart and continue to go to your McDonald's and live life with your eyes wide shut. And then when things get crazy, when things hit the fan, so to speak, then you're going to be asking questions like, what happened? How did we get here? Well, I'm telling you how we're going to get there. We are right now currently being governed by a new world order. It's already here. I don't want anybody to think that this is something that's future tense. It's happening now. Okay? It's happening now. It's present tense. So we are being governed by a global conglomerate, a global enterprise known as United Nations. The United States of America is not united. We're divided. And by numerous means, by many forms of psychological operations, by the political circus that we all find ourselves emotionally invested in, as if presidents and men in suits are going to do something about America. You guys are idiots if you think that the government in that regard has something to do with the way things run in this world. You're a fool. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. I'm going to say that. Whether you take that as disrespectful or not, I don't care how you take it. You're a full-blown idiot if you think that the presidency and voting matters. You're a fool. These illegal immigrants that are being allowed in this country is the same card that was played with the indigenous people that stayed here in the States. The indigenous people of America, or I should say Turtle Island, because the name America is the name given by the European, America Vespucci. America Vespucci is the Italian, a Caucasian, a Caucasoid, who had nothing to do with Turtle Island. The original inhabitants of the land that we know as America today are the Niji. They were black people, lack of a better term. These people were here first. It's been well documented in the journals of these Italian explorers, or these conquistadors. Copper-colored people, oily skin, dark-colored. It's written in their damn journals. So this idea that that Native Americans were here, the Native Americans, see, it's wordplay. When they say Native Americans, it's the America that they've created. America was not called America. It was called Turtle Island. That's the original name, Turtle Island. That's the original name, not America. America is the new name that was given to it. It was changed. So when you change your name and then you call somebody a Native American, you're now attaching a group of people or a race of people to what you just created. It doesn't make it true. It makes it deceptive. It's deception. Okay? So yeah, Native Americans, the Indians that you guys think are the Native Americans, they're not the native to this land. The native to this lands are the black people, not Africans. We're talking about original black people. The Niji. They're the true natives. Okay, so let's get that straight. And you wonder, well, what about the narrative about them bringing a bunch of Africans from Africa and bringing them over the transatlantic for slave purposes? Well, that story isn't true either. We've been told that in reverse. If you do research, look at Dane Calloway's channel. He talks about this extensively. He does a way better job than I can do it. And he talks about how they were ocean gyres. It would make it utterly impossible to take millions of slaves across the Atlantic and the transatlantic slave trade. It'll be impossible. You cannot do it. It won't happen. It can't happen. And let's say it did happen. If slavery, all right, if the migration of slaves from Africa to America happened as early as the 1400s, what kind of boats would they use? You say, well, they use slave ships. There's no such thing called a slave ship. You had cargo ships, and cargo ships was for cargo. Now, you may say, well, the cargo was the slaves. Well, how are you going to feed those slaves? How are you going to keep them healthy? Because if you get slaves, they have to be your workers, right? You don't want sick workers. How are you going to, by boat, go over the Atlantic with cargo ships? And the first cargo ship wasn't built till 1859. So before then, what kind of freaking boats were they using to cross the transatlantic for the transatlantic slave trade? What boats were they using to cross the Atlantic? That's the question you have to ask yourself. It didn't happen the way we were told, folks. There were already black people here in America. They own these lands. They have businesses. What's going on today with these illegal immigrants that the United Nations are using to flood the country? Our government, or this government, is not for us. They said the government is for the people, by the people. Yeah, the government is for illegal immigrants and for foreigners. We have a foreign government that's taken over America. It happened centuries ago, and it's happening today, and we're seeing the manifestations of it occur right beneath our noses. It's happening right here, right now. You see, what you do is you flood a nation with immigrants. So therefore, the original landowners have no power. That's what happened to the black people, the Niji. That's what happened to them. The foreigners were the Europeans. It weren't white people weren't here on Turtle Island. You gotta be kidding me. The true slaves or the true Slavs are the white people. They're the Europeans. They're the ones that came here to America looking for work, looking to escape their captivity, looking to escape their bondage, looking to escape their oppression in their countries. They were coming here for free land. Okay? So this idea that white people have always dominated and they just went to Africa and got some black slaves and brought them here to America to be slaves, that story doesn't make any sense. Both white and black people owned slaves back then. Actually, slavery was part of the economic system. It's not the slavery you think of. It's called indentured servitude. Indentured servitude means that you work to pay off a bill, you work to pay off a debt. That's what it was. Now, the portrayals that we've seen that's been provided to us or given to us by mainstream media portray slavery to be something that's brutal, painful, something that's monstrous, something that's uncivil. It's not that. There are many forms of slavery. As I said, you have indentured servitude. Of course, you had the brutal form of slavery, but that was rare. That was a rare form. But that's the ones that they want to publicize. Just like today, in our current contemporary world that we live in, we have the portrayal that cops are just out there killing black people. Is that true? No, that's not true. Now, they may take one incident of a white cop shooting a black person, and they play that over and over and over again. And so when the history books are written, and when history is archived and logged in for propagandized purposes, they'll say that in the 2000s, or especially in the 2020s or in the 2010s, that cops were killing black folks. That's what they'll say. And dumbasses who don't do their own research will believe it. Because remember, those who have the power to control the pen. And whoever controls the pen controls history. Whoever controls history controls the narrative. Whoever controls narrative controls the world. That's the way it works, folks. So, ladies and gentlemen, this idea that slavery was just all about black people being in chains and working for free is not true. Black people own lands. So why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this because everything is starting to connect and make sense to me. It doesn't take much for anybody, much less a person who lacks the ability to critical think for themselves. You can put the pieces together, even though I know today common sense is not too common. What they did back then to the Niji was what they're doing today. The attack has always been against black people. The other Caucasians and Hispanics and the other races, the Asians, the Mexicans, all those other races are just collateral damage. We are the true enemy. We are nature. We are the enemy of the unrhythmic Caucasian, the unrhythmic people, the psychotic essence of their form of medicine and their form of governance. It's all psychotic. It's unrhythmic. They attack nature. They attack everything that comes from nature. So melanated people are carbon-based. We come from nature. So it's only apropos for them to attack us. So they're going to attack us. They're going to attack us duplicitously, and they're going to do it subtly, covertly, in a way that we won't notice it. So when you see the flooding of immigrants into the country, you think it's all political. It's not political. It's a direct attack on us, black people, here in the States. Because for as long as we've had this government, it's always been foreign. The government was created by foreigners who came to this country. Even the civil rights movement was about foreigners who were trying to carve their own niche into Turtle Island. But we were brainwashed by college students who went to these college universities to think that, hey, we need to do away with segregation. We need to come together. So the history books were written saying that white people were owning things and black people were trying to get in on what white people had. That's not true. Black people already had what they had. They had banks, they had their own stores, they had their own companies, they had everything. We had our own thing. What was going on with the civil rights movement, that was also a psychological operation to brainwash people. See, the easiest way to brainwash a nation is to get the youth. Because then the youth, they end up leading the charge to end up putting forth the agenda and the narrative to the near future that are coming up. So we don't need to get the older people, because the older people are set in their ways. We're not going to change the minds of older people who are deeply rooted in truth. But what we can do is manipulate the youth. So what they've done, cleverly, very deceptively, was brainwash the college students to make them think, hey, we need to do sit-ins. We need to go to these restaurants and sit in. Okay, we need to go to these restaurants and sit in and force them to serve us. They don't have to. They don't have to serve you. They don't have to. They're well within their own rights not to serve you, because that's their restaurants. It's segregation. It's not because black people didn't have their own restaurants. They have their own stuff. They just wanted to do away with segregation. But white people were well within their own rights to have their own stuff, as we did. As a matter of fact, I would lean towards that type of society where whites had their own, we had our own. It's the amalgamation of both white and black that causes the problems, because we function off of two separate, distinct paradigms. We don't think the same. We don't reason the same. One people are rhythmic. One people are unrhythmic. One people have a psychological psychosis that attacks nature, and the other group honors nature. One group is Afrocentric at heart, governed by civility and rhythm and temperance, and another group is not at all attached to any of those principles that I just mentioned. They're all for profit. They use profit. They use nature for profit, while the Afrocentric mind uses profit for nature. There's a difference. If you plunder, if you take over nature for profit, that is evil. If you make profit to better nature, that is good. So what the UN is doing today currently by allowing these immigrants to come to America by the millions, spending billions of dollars on these immigrants, giving them benefits, giving them social security cards, giving them the ability to become citizens quickly. It's by design, because the only way to continue to keep the false government or this foreign government running and to keep the foreign government intact is to give it power by empowering other foreigners. They did this. I'm trying to tell you guys, history is being repeated. And I'm really upset. I'm not upset. I just wish that Dan Calloway would do a video about that. Because I'm not a historian. I'm just talking off the cuff. I'm not a historian at all. He's the historian. But the same thing that they did to the Niji by bringing in foreigners, creating a government that benefited their own. That's why black people became second-class citizens, because we became non-citizens of the country that we habitated. It was our habitat. It was our home. We were indigenous to the land. But all of a sudden, a foreign government comes in through legislation and manipulation and paperwork and technicalities in this foreign government, this evil system that we're governed by. They found a way to manipulate the system, put themselves as first-class citizens, and put ourselves as second-class citizens. That's why they end up saying that black people were 3/5 of a man, or whatever the hell they said we were, according to their documents. See, it's their government. See, you think that the government is for you. The government has never been for you. The government is the enemy of the indigenous people of the land. The government might not be the enemy of a white person. The government might not be an enemy of a Hispanic person. The government might not be an enemy of an Asian person. But the government, believe you when I say this, believe you me when I say this, the government is a direct enemy of the black man in America. That's what they're doing. In order to oppress us, the only way to continue to infuse the foreign government with power is to continue to give foreigners power to make them more important than the people that are already here. It's not that the government doesn't care about its citizens. The government doesn't care about the indigenous people of America, which is us. The other races here are just collateral damage. They're just distractions. Okay? They're just distractions. So what they're doing, they're just helping out foreigners because we have a foreign government that's occupying our indigenous country. And then we end up putting ourselves on their level, trying to bargain and talk about reparations. Why should there be reparations when you don't even count in the government, in the governmental documents? It's not for you. The government's not for you. You don't count. You're black. You're non-existent. That's why I don't like using the term black. Everything that they've done and everything that they do is all strategic. The wordplay, using African American as a term to classify a group of people, which is a misnomer, like Dane Calloway says. It makes a lot of sense. How can you identify a race of people by two continents? Africa